G'day and welcome to the Bench Thinker episode 75. My name is Jamil Raymond. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here as always. Just catching you up from last week, folks. We're punching through. I'm working hard, not playing hard at all. Life is boring. Just taking you through my history, the history of my life in textiles. You should probably know that by now. You're all anxiously, excitedly carrying along and following the journey, aren't you? Aren't you? Fuck yeah, absolutely. Well, look, what's happening in my world this week? Interesting times to say the least. Had my third out of fourth week of doing the POC sessions. This week's good. I'm getting into the swing of teaching this thing. I've come to realize that the content is solid. My only issues that I have is that there's too much teaching. My problem has always been, and I know this, that there's too much volume in the sessions that I'm trying to do. There's so many things that I want to talk about and why I think they're useful, which is great to know that I'm not worried about lack of content, but it really is just keeping it not punchy and relevant, but just trying to fit as much as I can that's quality in a 90-minute session. They all end up being close to 2 hours, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's bad for the retention of the people inside the course because it's fucking hard to pay attention for something for 2 hours. I totally get that. I thank them for their time. I wish there was an easier way to do this, to just keep everyone on par. But yeah, this is what we've got to do. And, they can see the replays of the sessions if they need to. So I've tried to make this more interactive, but the interactions just take up more time, which is the big premium. So a bit of a conundrum. Thankfully, next week is my last week because, man, I tell you what, by the end of those Sunday sessions, I am cooked. I told you that last week. This week, I was a better boy. Didn't take too many of my meds, or sort of kept them on the low key a bit and just rested. And I feel much better today as a result compared to where I was last week. But, it's synchronous that this, I don't know, it's not a good thing or a bad thing, but it's just funny how things have lined up this week. Cisco, the company I used to work for, announced a bunch of layoffs, a pretty big round of layoffs, about 5% of their workforce, which is about 4,500 people. Not a small amount. And it doesn't mean that I really do feel personally about being made redundant, which is actually going to be the theme of this week's pod, about my redundancy and going through the woods, what I call a real dark time in my life. And yeah, it's I put myself out there a little bit on LinkedIn yesterday. It's an interesting situation where, as I grow into this new solo entrepreneurial journey, my words are getting mixed up, even though I think because I'm rushed. I have to make this a shorter episode because I'm having to do a bit of a backlog of things for the reasons why I'll explain now. Yeah, as you move into a solopreneur and move into a personal brand, there is this constant push to put yourself out there on the internet, and it feels big and it feels scary. And I still have to, it's a real challenge still to do that in my life and sort of push past some emotional awkwardness, like putting yourself out there or making, being earnest and being vulnerable on a public platform such as LinkedIn, which is strange because I think it's just new ground. Because I've used to put clips of this up on Instagram and TikTok, which were way more personal. And I've talked about this, my challenges in public on this podcast anyway, but putting it on a platform like LinkedIn, which is professional, the fear and the ego get in the way, as always, right? I've talked about this plenty on the pod. As you push yourself into new, unfamiliar territory, the ego will throw up illusions and these things to sort of keep you into the familiar known. And I couldn't help but feel that yesterday when I put this message out to help support people that have been affected by this redundancy. Because, the redundancy for me 2 years ago was really painful. Again, one of the darkest periods of my life, which we'll talk about in the podcast. And I could have used a lot more help than I got at that time. It feels awkward to put myself out there on the platform because my concern is people are going to think this is some sort of social media land grab, or, making the worst of a bad situation by, I'm offering my course for free to people, anyone that wants it. Right. And that's the concern I have. And I can't deny that, doing this gesture of putting myself out there and, I guess let me backtrack a little bit. So I've put a post up yesterday, an earnest 4-minute video post about wanting to go out and help people, give people support that have been affected by these redundancies, because I've been in that position and it fucking sucks and it's painful as hell. And something over the weekend when I saw these redundancies, it sort of woke up, a lot of the pain that I felt and the insecurity and the lostness, right, that I had in that time. And I really felt, this pain that you feel inside and what I feel inside. That's the stuff that I'm working against or fighting against and alchemizing to turn into something better for next time. That's the basis of this course to begin with, of Tech Sales Academy, is to remember the pain that you felt by being insecure and in those moments where you don't know what the fuck you're doing, but you want to make something of yourself, and making sure that we reduce that pain or eliminate it for the next generation so they don't have to feel that level of problem. That's the whole point of evolving as a people, as a species, right, as a collective, is to reduce the pain and make life for the next generation easier. Easier in the right way, not just make them soft and just give them everything, but give them the tools to be efficient. They still need the struggle to get somewhere, and I believe that, right? I need the struggle. Everyone needs the struggle to feel the accomplishment, to feel the growth. You can't grow bigger muscles without working harder and putting yourself into uncomfortable situations that force you to grow, mentally and physically. Physically and mentally, but you know what I mean. So I put this video out. It's honest, it's real, I'm here to help, right? Living by my values of being of service to other people, no matter what, right? Just being helpful. The values that I put in this podcast and what I do with the comedy is creating community, creating connection, being just earnest and honest, and just putting as much positive energy out into the world that I can, because I know already, thanks to the law of reciprocity, thanks to the great things that have happened in my life, that if you move with positive intent in your life, in your actions, and you keep those intentions pure, great things come. And that is the vibration, that high vibe, living by service, living by my values, that I focus on when I put that message out, right? The flip side is, yes, it's good for business. It's easy to admit that. Right, it is good for business to make me look like a good guy, but this is my brand, right? And I'm not trying to say I'm creating a brand, but this brand of being a good person has already been thrust upon me because I am a good person. But can you hear how I'm saying, yes, I guess I'm a good person? This is what I'm still fighting against as an individual. When you've spent 25 plus years in the negative, in the dark, in low self-esteem, right? That old wiring of you having low self-esteem and you're a bit of a piece of shit. These are the ghosts of that old conditioning that come up when you try and push for that new level of yourself. And as I was considering putting this message out there over the weekend, I in my head, I was imagining the judgments of other people going, what's this guy about? He's a bit of a wanker. What's he doing? And I won't name the people that I imagine in my head because, again, they didn't do anything. This is me. This is my ridiculous brain just, again, casting these illusions, casting these false narratives into my mind. But yes, I've put myself out there. I put this message out. It's earnest. It's honest. I'm here to help. And, again, it's just being able to implant good energy into other people, particularly in dark times like this when they could really use the help. We all want a leg up and we all want, a little bit of security, a bit of, surety that things are going to be okay. And the great thing is that, we've talked about this, is like I had some dark times, but almost 3 years later, here I am now, being able to talk about that stuff in a much better position. And that's the message, right? Is that it might be shit now and it's going to suck now and it'll suck for a while. And I still carry the bitterness of being made redundant to this day. And it's been a fuel to build my own freedom. I cannot deny that. And I'll admit it, right? And so to be able to just go, hey, things are going to be okay. Let me see if I can give you some clarity in this moment. This is what we're aiming for, right? That's the vision. That's the journey. So I did that. And yeah, look, had a very nice response. Hundreds of likes. I think about half a dozen, maybe about 10 people have reached out in about 24 hours. There's a bit of a lag. Again, this could be an ongoing saga, but the redundancies were announced, but the process hasn't been finalized. So this could go on for weeks, right? So I could be helping people for weeks. And, the help I'm doing is pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward stuff. It's advice, it's a support, it's a digital shoulder to cry on. I'm offering services like, let me help you punch up your LinkedIn, help you punch up your resume to show value, to make sure that you can get that next job as effectively as possible by communicating how valuable you are in your resume and standing out from the crowd. Because a lot of the average person doesn't think about their brand, right? I think a lot about my brand. I've been thinking about brand building for years now. So there's that. I've offered, just clarity, a shoulder to cry on. Can I talk to you about my experience and tell you how I got from this dark time into a better time? Thinking about, I've shared some mental health tools with people, right? Talking about the physiological side, learning how to be mindful and meditate, pulling yourself out of anxious spirals. The toolkit that I've been building to see if I can help people with this stuff. And then I'm giving away versions of Tech Sales OS for free to people, anyone that's been affected by the redundancies. So, yeah, for me, this stuff cost me nothing. It just cost me a bit of time. The cost to give away my course for free, the marginal cost of replication of my course is close to zero. It's cents in the dollar. So if I can give someone significant value at zero cost to me, fantastic. That's charity, that's donation, that's helping in need. And on the flip side, yeah, look, the cost of that, not a lot of time, not a lot of effort or resource, plenty of upside. People get help, they feel better, my brand expands. Again, I don't know, I just feel guilty and weird about having selfish intent but that's true. It doesn't, it's not selfish. Again, altruism does not exist. We want the feeling of good things to happen. But yeah, I feel weird and guilty for knowing that this is good for my brand. And I don't know how to navigate that. I might talk to Cecilia about that tomorrow. I'm going to therapy. It's been a couple of weeks, which is not a bad thing that I haven't gone in a couple of weeks. It's just that I've been busy, but I figured I'd probably check in and just make sure I'm all good and just touch base. And oh man, here's a bit of painful irony for you. So I booked in a session for therapy last night, 4:30. I'm like, let's just go check in for the hell of it. It's been a few weeks. Like an hour later, my parents call me, my mum calls me, and she just calls me and goes, "Did you get the money?" And I'm like, "What money?" And then they start to freak out. And what happened is my mum got conned, my mum got scammed by some idiot, some dipshit on her phone saying that I was in trouble, I'd lost my phone and I need money from them to buy a new phone and to transfer them cash. And my mother fell for it. My 65-year-old technologically incompetent mother and other incompetent forms of mother as well fell for it. My dad sort of was just like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then they wired some fuckface in God knows where up to $4,500. And I was livid. I was like, you idiots. Why would you not think to call me and verify this to me another way? Also, I'm your oldest son. I work in tech. I don't need your money. I have a wallet to go buy things, right? It's just the absolute lack of common sense. I lost my shit. I lost my shit. I lost my cool. I snapped back right at them going, are you guys fucking idiots? And the answer is yes. But, it didn't help the situation that I cracked it, but God, come on. My dad's shouldn't be that dumb. He understands that people are full of shit and there are scams on the internet. And yeah, they got done. I mean, a few $1,000s down the drain. They'll be fine. It's not great to lose a few $1,000s in this economy, but fucking hell, man. That'll definitely be going straight to, there's a straight away a need for my therapy. Just when I thought everything was going great, I was like, for someone that has worked literally every single day for the last month, non-stop, I have not taken a full day off since I started working on my own, which is over a month now. I'm keeping it pretty together. I feel all right. I should go to therapy just to make sure everything's good. Within an hour, bang. Now here's a reason to go to therapy. Bloody hell. Anyway, yeah, that's been my week so far. Just grinding away, helping people out. That's the mission, that's the cause. Feels good. It feels good to put myself out there. Feels good to be genuinely of service. It doesn't matter, my only concern with this at the moment is just balancing helping people versus the priorities of getting this course out. But, I guess it'll be fine is the answer to that. It'll be fine. Is that even if I'm a little bit less on the content this week for my course, I understand that I'm onto something. I know that the people that are involved in this think it's great value and will give me the testimonials to help the marketing out. They get way more value out of this, with free coaching, and they get this course for free. So it really is just to validate. I've got enough validation that I know I'm onto something, and I know that these guys will help me out with some great feedback to help me market the course once it's ready. I just gotta, this is doing the job, right? This is doing the job of being of service to people and helping them out. And it feels good, man. It feels good. Because I tried to avoid checking my social media after I put that post up, just because I was exhausted and I just wanted to stay away from my phone and just take a break. And yeah, this morning when I woke up and and I checked it out and there was 10 messages or something like that. And I was like, great. People to help, right? People to help. Ease some suffering. It doesn't matter about me. I can help these people and some great will come of it. I don't know what, but it's there, right? We're just banking good karma, good energy, and that'll compound in time, right? Beautiful stuff. Anyway, let's talk on the topic of redundancy, right? Last week we talked about my career at Telstra, the high-flying year, the crazy year that was FY21. We are culminating the end of that period with me getting redundant. Spoiler alert! So last week we talked about me being a top 1% performer in cultural leadership. I'm coaching people on big deals, other senior people in the business. I'm hand-holding Sayers, this high-profile account. And we're coming into, let's maybe call this March 2021. And we know there's changes. We can feel the culture isn't right. It's still lockdowns. It's a very weird time. And yeah, we know that the restructure is coming and they announce it. And I'm just trying to sort of rack my brain here about that time. Too many cones in between. Yeah, I guess remember just being okay, we're having this restructure, but I'm in a good position, right? I'm, again, top performer, coaching, making my number, hand-holding an account. We should be okay. I'm feeling good about where I am in the business. My brand should be really, really strong. There's two types of roles that are available as part of this restructure. You can just get your normal job and just be replaced into this existing pool of the same version, the remixed version of what my current role was, which is a BDM or a senior seller. Or you could apply for these next generation jobs that are focused on digital growth and cloud and applications and these emerging technologies and being a specialist in that space. And I thought that was appealing for me to be a part of this next generation because I did want to be a next generation leader inside Telstra because I was a missionary for the brand. not a mercenary. There's two types of people, according to Jeff Bezos, which I agree with. There's the missionary, the people that believe in the brand and that are propagating the brand of what they stand for and what they do. And then there's mercenaries that are there for the dollar and to get their end in. And, the brand is somewhat important, but they're just there to make a paycheck and fuck off. And I was a missionary at Telstra, and I was a mercenary at Cisco. Not to say that I didn't represent the brand of Cisco well, but I was there to make my money, not really kiss ass, just do my thing, develop my brand, and fuck off, which I've done successfully, right? So I apply for these next generation jobs, thinking, man, I'm standing out here. Why wouldn't I leverage? Why wouldn't I be the leader and take a forward step in a dark time, in this transitionary time? I'm doing some great work here. Wouldn't that be cool to show the world? So I apply. And you just sort of left in the lurch for a while because these massive restructures, nobody has any idea what the fuck is going on. And they're just culling people. It's a mass exodus, right? It is basically, like looking back at it now, it was just a big dump button, right? I was on The Simpsons when when you go to Mr. Burns' office and he's got that button push and a chute opens up and the people fall through. It was basically that, right? It's just pushing head counts and off the table willy-nilly to show analysts, shareholders, people who, the masters of these corporations, that we are profitable, that we are, now that we've removed 2,500 jobs and we've freed up close to $1 billion in revenue in labor costs that we've expended, now that'll give us great forecasts into the future of our profitability and make sure that we can provide 52 cents dividends to our tier one provider and shareholders. That's basically a redundancy or a mass layoff from Telstra in a nutshell, right? Is that I learned a lot of fucking hard lessons about the nature of corporations in this time. So we've got the redundancies, and here's a kicker. Here is the kicker for me. Nobody told me, and I put the square blame on my manager. I've already torn that dipshit to shreds on this podcast 18 months ago, so I'm not going to try and do that anymore now. He did not inform me that if you applied for these next generation jobs, you could not apply for your own job in the old pool, the safe pool of just getting another version of your current job. And if you didn't get a role in this new generation stuff, you would get made redundant. Nobody told me that, right? So I went into this pretty naive. I was keen. I was like, my brand is good. This is perfect for me, right? They've got roles about being cloud BDMs and talking about applications and infrastructure. Guess what? I just put together an exclusive technology partnership between Telstra, Microsoft, and Sayers to build and showcase new technology and applications in the enterprise market. Wouldn't I be the perfect person to do this job? So I applied, and I didn't get it. And then there was another role that I had applied for, which was to be a chapter lead, which is essentially a pseudo team leader. Because I think I told you guys last week, they tried to implement Agile, which is a methodology for managing software and products, not people and revenue generating business units, right? Some fuckwit, I think I said this last week, but some fuckwit in BCG or McKinsey made a killing convincing Telstra to move to Agile and completely flubbed that business and tore it to fucking shreds with its lack of structure. Fucking morons, man. So, let's talk, I think it's around April, May, we get to this point of down to the wire. I'm wondering if I'm going to have a job. I'm like, surely I should be a shoo-in for this stuff. But what you come to learn when in situations like this is where the toxicity and the who you knows of business culture come in. And I am, certain that leaders higher up leaders in the organization already had people earmarked for the next generation jobs for whatever reason that they had, right? Maybe they're protected species, they're favored by certain people. I don't know, man. Like whatever toxic bullshit reason the who you knows of corporate life do, it's beyond me, and that's why I want to step away from it. But sometime in May, I get a voicemail. Someone calls me, a number I don't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. I get the voicemail, and it's being told that I've been made redundant because I didn't get that last role as a chapter lead. Someone left a fucking voicemail to make me redundant. And I went into shock, and I was furious, and I was stunned. And even worse is that I was the only person in my team that got made redundant, and I was the golden child of that team as far as the leader was concerned, my manager. I was doing all this extra fucking work for nothing, and out of everyone, and in my team, there were a few dipshits that should have gotten the boot. I was the one that was singled out. And I remember just being in shock. And then when I told my manager that I got made redundant, he was just a stuttering mess. And I remember just screaming at him, going, me? Of all people? Me? To get made redundant? What the fuck? And yeah, it was... I'm even just in blind shock now, trying to remember that time, right? When you've clearly had some sort of repressed memory, something like this, it fucks you up, right? And it's hard to process, and it's hard to go back into these painful times. And yeah, I remember just being completely blanked out, furious, confused. How? Literally, less than 12 months ago, I was being celebrated for being a top 1% performer, being a cultural leader in this organization. I was weeks away from potentially being in the Australian Financial Review, thanks to the stuff that I had done with Telstra. And it's all gone. It's all gone. My last day, I had to negotiate my last day to be June 30. They were going to get rid of me at like a month, within 30 days. And I said, keep me on till June 30 so I can at least get my sales in and get my numbers in, because you guys want these deals in the door as well, right? I'm bringing in millions of dollars. They can see my forecast. It would make plenty of sense for me to bring that money in, and then you fuck me off, which they agreed to. And I remember I was dating someone at the time, and I was just venting to them about how fucked this is. And then I remember just having this maniacal moment of going like, holy shit, like with my commissions and my payout, because I've been there almost 7 years, plus the redundancy, like I would be getting close to $100,000 in my pocket from this. And I remember laughing about that, and I was like, this is great. I can kickstart my business. I can start Aussie Comedy Network, because I was really thinking about building it at the time. You know, I could take a break, and I can, you know, there's a golden parachute here. And I just was laughing maniacally. I was like, fuck this. I'm going to fucking work these systems like I know how to my nth degree, to scrape every fucking cent out of this corporation that I can before I get out of here. And that's what I did. Now, I remember being real angry. And I think that maniacal moment where I was like, I'm going to get them all. I'm going to show them. That is just me processing, you know, that's probably one of the stages of grief and denial of how much this actually hurt me. Because, yeah, it was fucked. Completely fucked. So in the weeks to come, I pulled out every stop in the book to get every deal that I could across the line. I told all my key customers, all the customers that had great relationships, the ones we've talked about in the last couple of weeks, and told them, I'm being made redundant, I'm being made let go. So it's really important that we close off all the business that we had talked about so far, just to make sure you are safe and you are protected, because I can tell you now that this business is going to absolutely fall to shit after I'm gone. Because it's not just the level of my skill set that's keeping these accounts afloat, it's also the fact that Telstra is gutting their business. They're gutting their retail business. When I say retail, I mean so it's still business, but there's retail and wholesale when it comes to networks and connectivity. So when you retail network, your retail business, that's when you sell to the customer. If you're a wholesaler, you're selling networks to other networks or to other providers who will then on-sell the networks and manage service. So what Telstra was doing and are doing now is that they gutted their retail business. So in that year that I got made redundant, Telstra split itself into 3 businesses. They used to just be Telstra Corporation, and then they split themselves into 3. And what they did was they had Telstra, which was everything you know about Telstra, the brand itself, which is a retail brand, so they would deal directly with customers and direct to consumer and B2B. And then they had 2 wholesale units, one called Infraco, which is infrastructure, which is the wholesale physical data network, so all of the cables and all the copper networks and assets that are underneath us, creating the infrastructure and the internet that we have today. And then they had Amplitel, which is the mobile version of a wholesaler. So they sell their mobile coverage wholesale to other providers that are in regional locations and basically cut the middleman out, or so they don't do the retail end of it, because the retail management and the cost to serve in managed retail is much higher than if you just sell to a bunch of wholesalers who take on the work of managing the network on your behalf. So if you've got 2 business units, Infraco and Amplitel, that are wholesale, and you've got 1 retail business, what do you think the CEO's focus is on? If 66% of your business is wholesale, where do you think the focus is for the corporation? It's in the wholesale. The other challenge is the majority of the market that they work in, the B2B data and carriage market, is full, because there's not that much growth in these solutions, and they are not capturing emerging markets because they're a premium product. So essentially, it's very difficult for them to find growth in this business anymore. So if you can't grow the business, and if you want to stay profitable, you've got to drastically reduce costs to maintain growth in the business. So that's what they did, is they gutted out all of the labor, all of the people from the business, which is the highest cost in the business. And as you know, that degrades the customer experience. They put digital self-service tool, which are fucking horseshit, T-Connect, dog shit program, and lowers the cost to serve. And if those customers don't like it, they leave. And it doesn't matter, because very likely those customers will end up on another network provided on another retail network, let's just call it Optus, for example, a competitor. But if Optus doesn't have that network, where they cannot service that network, they'll buy it wholesale from Telstra. So then an end customer goes from retail to wholesale, and they still get the same, Telstra still gets the money, but there's a lot less cost to serve. So the cost to manage that customer is much less, because Optus does all the work, right? Now, if you're a business, that's a smart move, okay? I have come to recognize that is a good move in business, so I can't knock them, and of most of the pain and the logic behind what they've done makes sense. I get it. This is what corporations are, right? Corporations are people, right? They are people in survival mode, essentially. Because we even treat businesses and corporations like separate entities to people. So you can sue a company, but a company is a different legal liability and a different legal entity to an individual. They just don't have a soul. But so when you think about a corporation like that, as this human being, as this entity that needs to survive, to make sure it honors the shareholder and gives all of its value away at the end of every year by giving cents in the dollar to every shareholder that's existed and distributing that wealth. It has to cut certain parts of the business to stay alive. Right? When we don't use certain parts of our bodies, they atrophy and they wither away because the brain goes, well, we're not using this, so we don't need it, so let's get rid of it. So you can't knock that, right? When I look back at it. But I saw this strategy when it was there, when it was happening. And not a lot of people did. Not a lot of other people did see that happening. So I remember just going around to customers and being like, this is the strategy. And I felt crazy at the time by saying this stuff. But in the last couple of years since then, it's come to fruition. I was right. So now, Telstra today is a shell of what it used to be as a business when it comes to the culture inside there. Ugh, toxic, brutal in there, yuck. And yeah, back then I was like telling my customers that you are going to see a significant drop off in the relationship and the quality of the business you get from Telstra. I can tell you that right now, because they were running that self-service platform whilst I was in the business, and it stunk, right? It was faulty. It didn't do shit. But again, the corporation is like, we are going this way and we will make we will move the heavens to make this work. And I think I told you about David Burns last week, scary Mr. Burns, the evil South African looking poacher dude. He's just there looking, imagine like an evil dude with evil glow and his fingers are steepled together. The plan is working. Yes, feel the hate, the evil. Something like that. I wonder if he's ever going to see this. I don't give a shit. Anyway, it comes to, which is a good thing. By getting rid of, telling my customers, a bunch more deals come in, right? I'm scraping every deal that I can. I'm letting customers know, hey, shit's going to happen. I'm giving them the warning sign. I'm giving them the inside goss. And it just piles up more deals in my favor. Even that last year was my highest ever target. It was $12 million for the year of sales. And I pulled in about $15 million worth of sales over that 12 months. So I was pretty fucking proud of that even in a fucking pandemic, I'm still closing at 130% to my number. Maybe it's a little bit less, maybe like 125, but still good. Good cash money, right? So I've done that. So yeah. That's the strategy. That's the plan. I can tell you in this time, that month in the lead up, I'm hustling deals every day. I'm just working, but I am hiding. I am in denial of how painful this time is to me. I remember I was, this is before I had medical marijuana, so I was still smoking weed every day, and I moved on to edibles, which was a bad idea, because edibles are a different kind of THC, and you digest them differently. It's just a much heavier high. So I was clearly just dosing myself heavier and heavier to not deal with the pain of where I was at, because it fucks you up, man. Redundancies fuck you up, and thank God that I don't have a family that I had to support in this time. And that's what really gets me, is that, the downstream effects this has on people. But it really fucks you up as a dude, as a man, when your ability to take away, your ability to, sorry, I'm getting a little bit fucking caught up here now. It fucks you up when your ability to provide is taken away from you as a man. All right? When you're I'm not a father, but everything I hear about, the masculine man is to be the provider, is to be proud that you are providing to your loved ones and having people under your care and being the rock to your family. And for someone that held a lot of pride in my name and my title of being a senior seller, having all these great relationships, and that was all, in a way, given to me by the business that I was in. And then to have that all stripped from me in one fell swoop, it was a long fall from grace. It was, brutal. Really brutal. And man, I remember, I think last time I did this, we talked about this. I talked about my last day at Telstra. I'm not gonna dig this up now. But that last day at Telstra, June 30, was just sad. One of the saddest days of my life. Because my manager at the time, he had fucked off, found out that for that to be on stress leave, right? He couldn't hack it, the situation that he was put in. Still had a job, mind you, but went on stress leave. And yeah, I do kind of feel for him for that. But he had already made, at this point, shown himself to not be a fit leader. And it just compounded the huge abandonment wound that it left in me. And abandonment is one of my biggest fears and one of my core traumas, is to be emotionally abandoned. And that's what I felt by Telstra in this moment. Someone that I was proud to serve, an organization that I was proud to serve, abandoned me and just threw me in the fucking dirt. And even to get what I was entitled to was a shit fight. I remember that. Because what they had tried to do was just give me, I think, 5 years worth of redundancy in my payout. But here in Victoria and Melbourne, they'd recently changed the laws to say that if you were a casual that moved into a full-time position in the same company, unbroken, that was counted towards your long service leave. And not your long service, but your, long service, right? So, and they should contribute to, therefore, redundancy. And that was a shit fight to get get them to recognize that, because the redundancy team, they did not have enough resources. They did not spend anywhere near enough money to support over 2,500 redundancies happening at once. All of the resources they had were offshore. I was dealing with a bunch of, reps for hire from the Philippines who barely understood the process and barely understood the context of what I was saying. I had come to find out that there was one man, one of two people, I think, who was managing the system verifications of redundancy payouts, because they were using some shitty old SAP or Oracle system to manage payroll. And there was only one person that was responsible, who had the skill sets to manage that process. And he has to manage the objections and look through the systems of hundreds of people that are asking for their entitlements. And I remember speaking to this guy and, and just chatting to him about, like, what the hell's going on here, man? And he's like, dude, it's crazy back here, right? It's basically just me. And I'm like, that's insane, mate. Again, you just ripping the fucking shitty Band-Aid off at all costs. And yeah, my last day at Telstra was brutal. And I remember being in the office on my last day. I was going to give my laptop and all my shit in. I wanted to be in the office because it was my last day. And we were just still allowed to go into the office because the lockdowns were still happening. And I was the last person in that office, after 5 o'clock on June 30. Usually on June 30, end of the financial year, you're hitting the piss. You're having a few beers. You've had a long sales year. You're celebrating. But that office was empty. And I was the last person in the office on that floor. And, I was just sitting there reflecting on all the time that I've had at that business, right? This is where I got my start. This is where I grew my confidence in sales and being a good salesperson and, building up this identity that I valued for so long. And it was all gone. And one of my customers, who I was doing a lot of deals with at the time, he called me and I broke down on the phone to him. A real vulnerable moment where I broke down on the phone to this guy. And he got it, right? It was, he had been there and he felt the pain that I was in. And it's rough. And then the fucking business I'm still trying to do deals on June 30, trying to get every single cent in that I can so I can fucking cut and run and take my money and get the fuck out of this place once and for all. And like bang on 5 o'clock on June 30, when deals are still being done, when I've still got, hundreds of thousands of dollars of sales out there waiting for signatures to get done, they cut my fucking systems off. They cut my phone off. They cut my laptop off. They didn't cut my laptop off, but they cut my phone off. I've still somehow got access to systems. Some of them have been cut down. And I'm left in the office with no means to get home. Like I was going to take an Uber home, so I got to get a taxi home to get my other SIM card that I prepared in my phone so I can still make calls and make deals with customers. Fucking insane, man. I didn't stop working until like 9:30, 10 o'clock that night. And I remember speaking to the account manager, Carly, who was my, my partner in this portfolio. And she was just like, man, it's done. Give it up. Give it up. It's over. And I was like, yeah, it's done. I can't bring any more in. I can't do any more deals. Just, this is it. It's done. And I remember just being so tightly wound up after that exhaustive day, an emotionally exhausting day. And then, when I just finally just had given up and just walked away from my laptop, again, had another edible and just fucking numbed out, man. Just completely numbed out. And that was the end of it. The next day, I just, wiped all the data that I could off my laptop, put it in the box they'd sent me to ship my shit back, and had to wait for my payout. And that's it. And I spiraled, man. I spiraled for a little bit after that. I took some time off. My next move was to take some time off, think about my next move, wait for my money to come in its entirety because I had to wait a couple of weeks for my payout, my commissions and stuff. But at that time, the thing that I look forward to was to start building Aussie Comedy Network and start my own thing. Right? That was the thing I was looking forward to. I was like, I'm going to scrape every fucking dollar I can out of this business, put it towards building my own future. Because fuck this, man. Fuck this. I'm never going to trust another corporation with my well-being ever again. And I've meant it. Right? Even going back into Cisco, I knew I was going to get out. I cannot trust another corporation with my well-being. And I remember, again, I was seeing a girl at the time for her birthday. We were, I was going to make her some dinner here at my place. And I had another edible at the time. Again, I had heaps of anxiety. Also with dating her, I wasn't ready to be dating someone again. Another mistake that I'd made. And I basically ruined her birthday, the poor girl, by having another anxiety attack and sort of saying some things that I regret in the moment because my anxiety was just pushing everything and everyone away. And that was July 17th, right? A couple of weeks after that incident, after being made redundant and being on my own. But I'm going to end it on a positive note, all right? And then we'll keep continuing the saga of where I've been at. I think I had to do a little bit of research on my phone. I had the birth of the idea of Tech Sales Academy, July 21st, 2021, 3 weeks after I've been made redundant. So in the lead up to all of this work, when I'd been thinking about starting my own business, starting a side hustle with Aussie Comedy Network, that was my focus at the time, to build a Australian comedy platform and build, a social media platform that Australians could be on. That was my focus. I was focused more on comedy at the time. There was also the seed, and I think I talked about this 2 weeks ago, of creating a consulting firm for not-for-profits and being a technology consultant and helping organizations, not-for-profits, maximize their value, consult on best practice technology solutions. Just keep doing what I did and what I loved about working with Mari Stopes and Save the Children and all of the other NFPs that I've worked with, right? Creating technology for purpose, for benefit. And so I had the idea of calling it Impact Consulting, Impact with a K instead of a C. I'm just checking the time here. It's 5:22. That's good. We still got some time before my meeting. So that was just it was a very distant pipe dream back then. And I was focused on ACN, and I also had this idea, this passion for mentoring people. In that last year, again, I was mentoring a bunch of people, Elijah and a couple of others. And I can't remember how it happened, but I had this idea on the 21st of July where I was like, well, why don't I teach sales, right? Like, I'm coaching it, I'm doing it for free, I'm good at it, I'm passionate about it. And at the time, I knew Telstra so well, I knew that machine so well, and they're the biggest ICT player at the time, that I was like, I could teach people how to sell Telstra, I could teach people how to sell tech. And when I had that idea, I had this lightning bolt run through my spine, right? This huge lightning bolt, what I would probably call Kundalini energy, which is, it's just powerful inner source in energy, right? Shot up my brain. Like one of the biggest aha moments I've ever had, probably the biggest aha moment I've ever had. And I remember just frantically walking up down this room that I'm in right now. I'm recording this in my kitchen, in my lounge room, going, I could do this. I could create a package, and I could teach partners how to sell Telstra better, and I can get students to do all this sort of stuff. And I was manic, and I was crazy and obsessed for a while there. And I just remember that I was like, oh fuck, I'm really onto something here. I am really onto something. And then I remember I was like, you know what I could do? I could create this package of this body of work of how to sell Telstra, or I could teach you how to sell against Telstra, build this body of work and sell to the competitors. Go to Optus, go to Vocus, go to Vodafone, and go, hey, if you want to learn the inside machine of how to beat Telstra at their own game, I know exactly how to do it. Because I was the best at Telstra. I knew how much I was papering over the cracks of that shitty machine. So why didn't I just use the cracks in that machine to my advantage now and go, fuck you. Let me show you what you missed out on. And I remember the reason why I know it's the 21st of July is that I was just frantic up and down. And I was like, all right, I got to get marketing. I got to do all these things. I got to figure out how to build a body of work. And I actually had reached out to a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, Adrian, whose job I actually tried to save as part of the redundancies before I got made redundant. And he was moving into a digital marketing space. So we had built a great connection because he was a great dude, still is a great dude. Got to catch up with him, actually. But he was a great operator, and real recognizes real. So when he told me that his job was at risk, I wanted to help him out, try and keep his job, because he helped me in a lot of ways. When I was doing all my best work with SAYS about presenting the future of technology to them and really putting on this great showcase of what we could do. And he was a great dude. So I was like, I remember texting him about this on that day. So that's why I had to scroll through my phone just to make sure it was that time. But I tried to help save his job, right? And that's sort of, again, I remember that about Adrian over the weekend. And I was like, again, coming full circle about this whole being weird about helping people in times of need. I think it's just the public broadcast of that onto a global platform that feels weird and strange. But it is in my nature to help, right? It is in my nature to reach out and help people. And I need to remember that even if I'm doing that in strange, unfamiliar territory, that the intent to serve is genuine, is real, and we need to focus on that, right? Instead of wondering about what's in it for me, figure out how you can just serve, just serve without consideration of yourself. Serve, I forgot the word. Selflessly. There it is. God damn. It's been a long day, folks. And yeah, so that's the bright spark, is that I knew I was onto something now. And I started to build from there, from about August onwards, 2021. So it's crazy to think that, almost 3 years later, this time in 3 years, I should figure out where I am July 21st, 2024. Because honestly, folks, I think I'll be in a good place. I think I'll be in a very good place by then. But in the meantime, we keep pushing on, we keep working, we keep doing the work. And yeah, folks, I'm going to leave it there. Oh, mate, pretty much on the hour, 55-ish minutes. God, does my body know when a good hour is done or what? Anyway, a bit rambly, this is all off the top of the dome, a bit push for time. You know where to find me, techsales.academy. Course pre-sale up now, 50% off. Join the mailing list. Loving putting out these emails. I'm really enjoying putting out the newsletter. I'll put that link into the socials. If you're on the YouTubes, likes, comment, subscribe. Do me a favor. Share this with a friend. If you've been affected by the Cisco limited redundancies, if you've been made redundant by Cisco as part of these things, and you listen to this in some way or form, please reach out to me. The course is free for you. Let me help you on your journey. It should be easy to find me if you're on my platforms. That's it for this week, bingers. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Love yous all. See you next week.